For thousands of years, the island of Sri Lanka has been home to one of the most incredible and long-lasting water engineering systems the world has ever seen. We're talking about a legacy so deep, it didn't just shape a landscape, it built an entire civilization. Okay, let's dive into this amazing story of ancient genius.
And that's not just some fancy phrase. Seriously, this wasn't about building a few dams here and there. It was about creating a whole society that was completely woven into the way water was managed. The entire civilization, its very existence, rose and fell with the flow of its reservoirs and canals.
So that's the big question, right? That's what we're going to unpack. We'll look at the brilliant engineering that let a kingdom thrive in a really tough climate, then we'll see how it was all deliberately torn down, and finally, we'll understand why this ancient wisdom is more important and more at risk than ever before. So where did all of this begin? Well, like a lot of great ideas, it started with a problem that just had to be solved. It was about survival. You see, ancient Sri Lankans were dealing with a harsh environmental reality that basically forced them to become masters of adaptation.
Now, this right here shows you the harsh reality they were up against. Just look at the numbers for June. You've got 134 millimeters of water just, poof, evaporating into the air, but only 5 millimeters of rain coming down to replace it. That's more than 25 times more water leaving than arriving. Without some way to store the big monsoon rains, life here would have been flat out impossible.
And you know, this need to store water probably goes back even further than the famous kingdoms. When Prince Vijaya showed up around 483 BC, he apparently found a pond that historians are pretty sure was man-made. This suggests that the indigenous people, the Yaksha tribe, had already figured out the basics of water conservation. They were the OG innovators here.
Okay, so from these early, small ponds, Sri Lankan engineering just exploded into a golden age. This was a massive leap from small-scale survival tactics to, nation-building infrastructure. They created some of the most impressive hydraulic structures anywhere in the ancient world.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows the sheer scale and the incredible long-term commitment to this work. This wasn't a flash in the pan. We're talking over 1,500 years, where each generation built on what the last one did, leading to these absolutely colossal reservoirs, like the Parakrama Samudra, a 9-mile-long man-made sea.
So how on earth did they build these massive earthen dams without modern science? Well, they used something we now call king soil mechanics. This wasn't about formulas or lab tests. It was a deep, hands-on knowledge of the land itself, a kind of wisdom that came from generations of just watching and learning. It's a totally different way of thinking from modern engineering, really. It was about listening to the earth instead of just telling it what to do. And it worked so well, people still study it today.
And if you want proof of how well it worked, get this. The Minareya tank, built by King Mahasena, is said to have served the nation for 1,700 years without a single breach. That is an engineering record that's almost unbelievable. And it's why King Mahasena is still revered as a god by the local communities.
You know, storing water is one thing, but safely letting it out from a high-pressure dam, that's a whole other beast. And that's where this key innovation comes in, the bisokotuwa, or the valve pit sluice. It was this really sophisticated outlet that let engineers control the immense force of the water, which is what made these giant reservoirs possible in the first place.
And here's an incredible story. During a modern restoration project, engineers used all their scientific tools, contour maps, hydrological data, the works, to find the absolute perfect spot for a new sluice. They started digging, and what do you think they found? The ruins of the ancient Kist Saroa. The ancient builders had picked the exact same perfect spot without any of our modern gadgets. Just amazing.
And the precision? It's just mind-boggling. Take the Kalawewa Yoda Ella, also known as the Giant Canal. It runs for 54 miles, and for the first 17 of those miles, it has a gradient of just 6 inches per mile. That's a slope of 1 in 10,000. A feat of leveling that is just wow. It's a challenge even with today's technology.
But this incredible system, which had sustained a civilization for centuries, it was about to come to a sudden and violent end. This part of the story is the Great Disruption, and it wasn't a slow decay, it was a deliberate act of demolition.
The year was 1818. A rebellion against British colonial rule broke out in the Yuva Wallasa region. The response that came was not just to crush the rebels, but to destroy the very foundation of their entire society.
So let me paint a picture for you. The Wallasa region, its name literally means 100,000 paddy fields, was built on this really elegant model. One village, one tank. A small reservoir at the top would catch the rain, and then it would feed the fields and homes down below. It was this perfectly balanced, self-sustaining ecological system, and it was repeated thousands of times across the land.
So to break the back of the rebellion, the military strategy was brutally simple: destroy the tanks. By breaching these small reservoirs, they cut off the lifeblood of the people. No water storage meant no farming, which meant no food, and ultimately no way to keep the fight going.
And the consequences were absolutely catastrophic. A thriving, prosperous region was just taken apart piece by piece. Its people were forced off the land, which was then left to ruin for over a century. It's a chilling reminder of how quickly a hydraulic civilization can be unmade.
Okay, so let's fast forward to today. These ancient systems aren't just historical artifacts. Many of them are still being used, but now they're facing a whole new set of dangers, everything from extreme weather to just plain human carelessness.
Just take this case from 1978. A massive cyclone hit, and the ancient Parakrama Samudra was overflowing. The engineers there faced this impossible choice. Option 1, let the dam break on its own, which could devastate communities downstream. Or option 2, open the gates, which would save the dam, but destroy the entire region's harvest. They chose to open the gates.
But the threats aren't all from Mother Nature. What happens when we forget what these structures actually are? Well, you get situations like this: a proposal to build a jogging track right on top of the 900-year-old Parakrama Samudra Dam. It's treating a high-risk, complex piece of engineering like it's just a city park.
And this is part of a pattern of modern recklessness. We see these poorly planned projects, politicians ignoring engineering advice, heavy trucks driving on these fragile ancient bunds, even driving piled foundations right into the old earthen dams. All of these actions just ignore how sensitive these structures are and put people's lives at risk.
And that's really the bottom line here. These dams are not just inert parts of the landscape. They are living heritage, and they're governed by an ancient science we still don't completely get. Messing with them without the utmost respect and caution is an incredibly dangerous gamble.
So that leaves us with one final thought. In an age of climate change and water shortages, what is the real value of this legacy? Are these marvels just something to be preserved in a museum, or does the wisdom of this ancient hydraulic civilization actually hold a key to a more sustainable way of living with our environment?